This is Impact Money. We are the best in crypto, stocks, and we do finance and the best at networking. It's Thursday, January 25th, 2024, and we are live. We got Bruce Porter on here. How are you, Bruce?
Fantastic, David. How about yourself?
Yeah, doing well, doing well. Everything is okay here. I know the world is, we keep this roller coaster of a world going, right? And
We
so, how are things looking over there?
we keep this roller coaster of the world going. That is the truth. A lot going on. Of course, we have a bunch of states that are joining Texas as we speak. Texas is really, standing up for the rest of the country here, closing the border. You have really a lot to talk about. Markets are responding as well, pretty nicely across the board. We'll have Matt on here in a little bit as well, talk about that DXY index as well as some of the other things. But yeah, I think that everyone's pretty much decided that Donald Trump is going to be the nominee. And people are starting to talk. There was some backroom talk, of course, with McConnell and some of the other guys.
It only takes one or two states to make that pretty obvious that Trump is the front runner with or without a debate.
With or without a debate. Well, that was the whole thing about the debates, right? It was just kind of one of those things where he was going to, it just didn't. I didn't mind not having the debates. Did you?
Of course not. It was totally unnecessary, and it shows how dirty these politicians like to play in this scenario. They really push for him to not be there. They just talk bad about him the whole time, and it's pretty funny to watch when he would go live at the same time as the debate with like tons and tons of fans, and it was really something else.
He would, right? He would go live. He did it every time. He did it every time.
Unless he was at court or something, huh? Man, they really tried to push him away.
Yes. Pretty interesting. So, yeah, I mean, really a lot going on. I'll go ahead and let me see here. I'll just pick up my feed. I put out a bunch of stuff. What I've been doing here lately is putting out some stuff on my X feeds, just so everybody kind of knows that. Let me see here. I didn't even know I could do that. I have multiple desktops open. How about that? Okay. All right. Well, let me just share my screen here. Of course, Texas. You guys are in the midst of it. There, we have quite a few stations that we're on in Texas. Good morning. Thanks for joining us, guys. We really enjoy doing the show. Make sure to give David at Sir David Porter a follow. Here, I'll just pull his up real quick so you can see that too. Sir David Porter. Some people think that only the queen can make a sir, but that's not true. Who died and made the queen or king the only person that can make a sir? Anyway, there's Sir David Porter there as well. I am, we lost me. Here we go. I'm Networks Manager, and I post stuff on here all the time. And of course, we'll have our good friend Matthew Dixon on in a second, and he is MD Trade. Okay, so a couple of the things here I wanted to go over. Let's start down this way. Here we are. Democrats introduced legislation for 5,000 people to enter illegally per day. Senator James Langford had this to say: "This bill is not designed to fix the problem. This bill normalizes 5,000 people a day coming in. 5,000 people a day is over 1.8 million a year. That's called an invasion, by the way."
Correct. And it's not fair to the people that are living there in the country. You don't see it going the other way around. You don't see people going into these countries. You know why? Because they wouldn't let them.
They wouldn't let them come in. Well, that's yeah. I mean, it's just it's crazy, really, what we have going on. I mean, even just to, I'm glad that he said that, because even just to normalize uh, this craziness, 5,000. So we're gonna let. So we already have how many people we have immigration, you know what I mean? So they're talking about 5,000 more people coming in per day. Just absolutely insane, if you ask me. Just really crazy. So, all right, moving on here, we have London appears to have a problem with electric buses. Another bus on fire. This is interesting. This is pretty interesting.
McConnell meeting with Republicans past few minutes. Jake Sherman with Punchbowl News had this about a McConnell meeting with Republican senators. Senator McConnell told a closed meeting of Senate Republicans today that the politics of the border has flipped and cast doubt on linking Ukraine and the border. It quotes him saying, when we started this, the border united us and Ukraine divided us. The politics on this have changed, he told his GOP colleagues. He said he referred to Donald Trump as the nominee. We don't want to do anything to undermine him, and he wants to campaign and center it on immigration. So, quote, we're in a quandary. Now, his staff said, he said something similar to that. We've asked some senators that were in the room. They didn't characterize it, but you see what's happening here as this disconnect is coming, and they realize the immigration issue is at the past few minutes. Jake Sherman with.
I mean, it's more of a border issue, I would say. I don't know if it's so much of an immigration issue, but all right, we can call it that. But I guess let's talk about that for a minute. So he's in this closed door meeting. He of course refers to Donald as the nominee. Of course, they've all been saying that he's not going to be the nominee from the beginning, which is kind of interesting, right? Because of course we all knew he would be. So they don't want to do anything to undermine him, like connecting Ukraine funding to border security indicates that they are in a quandary. Trump wants to campaign on immigration. Do you trust McConnell? Do you trust McConnell?
No, of course not.
Right? I mean, of course not. This guy is, he's McConnell. He's, this guy actually, the truth is, so McConnell, a quick story on this guy. When Trump was running the first time, Obama and Paul Ryan and the rest of the Republicans and Democrats were in the process of giving away ICANN, which is the root naming system of the internet. And that they were giving it away to a group, and that's who has it right now, a group of international stakeholders. And so the United States is really the only place that supposedly has free speech, right? Now, we've seen that really come under fire for the last decades. But by moving the root naming system out of the United States, of course, it before that, the internet itself had free speech basically baked into it because that was here. And so when Obama moved it out, of course, that changed everything. Now it hasn't, so basically you can have your domain turned off as well. And this is where a lot of the blockchain and stuff comes in on how to do that too. But we had a deal. So I was working behind the scenes with the guys on the Trump campaign, some of the guys that ended up being in the cabinet. And but this was before Trump got in. And we had a deal with McConnell to stop it. And I was celebrating. I mean, we really campaigned so hard on it. We worked so hard on stopping ICANN. And then at the last minute, McConnell just changed his tune and he funded it and he put it in the stopgap funding bill. And that was it. And it was gone. And it was actually one of the first times I really, really learned about Washington and how it worked. And that's why I kind of shrug my shoulders sometimes because some stuff you just you can have an effect on, and some stuff you can't. You know what I mean? And that deal was getting through, and there wasn't really that much we could do about it, unfortunately. And then Trump wasn't even in at the time, so I have never trusted that guy. Prices are down on milk, says Biden. Do you agree?
I know he's so funny. He says, "Oh, you guys must start to feel it in your pockets." Oh, yeah, we feel that 10 cents, Mr. Biden. Yeah, thanks.
we feel we feel that 10 cents, David says. Well, it's just funny because actually gas is up 30%
Yeah,
since he's in office, and milk is up 17%.
yeah. He draws the number and then he points at it and says, "See."
He says whatever he wants. I mean, he used to fly fighter jets. He's like he's Joe Biden.
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
even really sure that's the same Joe Biden from years ago. I mean,
Well, that's funny. There's plenty of footage of that, little different configurations of them.
it looks like a different guy. I mean, my ears have pretty much stayed the same all my life. How about yours? I mean, they're not shaped differently. Are yours?
Sometimes the AI cuts it off a little. I think because they're so
Well,
small.
all right. Sometimes the AI, when we're doing interviews around the world, will cut off our ears. I agree. David went around Dubai he was the man with no ears.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's suspicious.
Pentagon buildup in the Middle East, Israel Hamas war total 1.6 billion. I say, who are they fooling? 1.6 billion? I mean, come on, man. We spent like 1.6 billion just talking about the war over there.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's true. It's just, who are they kidding? I don't know what this. Now, this is interesting. Okay, so we have our fellow Texans here. Of course, we're on TV in Louisiana as well. And then, of course, we got to get pretty quickly over to Matt. I know he's waiting for us. But a lot of news today. We can pick back up. But Virginia, South Dakota, Oklahoma, and Florida officially stand with Texas. They've come out. Of course, I'm coming to you from Northern Virginia. I'm right across the river from the swamp, just a few miles from the White House. But at a certain point, after getting married and everything, I came over to the red state. Virginia, South Dakota, Oklahoma, and Florida officially stand with Texas against the U.S. federal government. Open border. I'm reminded of Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton's attorney Tony Busby last year when the Bush family and cohorts tried to impeach Paxton. I think all kind of makes sense now. Let's listen to Busby. This was really this made the rounds. The Bush era.
Are you pulling something up?
Oh, I'm not sharing my screen. Thanks, David.
Yeah.
Yes. Here we go. He says,
go back to Maine.
The Bush era, he said.
Era in Texas ends today. We thought it had ended in the primary when Ken Paxton beat George P. Bush 68 to 32. Well, we thought it was over. It wasn't. Well, now we have an impeachment. It ends today. They can go back to Maine. This is Texas. Era.
So the reason I posted this, David, is because isn't it kind of interesting that they tried so hard to get rid of Ken Paxton before this all happened? It was like they knew they had to get rid of Ken Paxton.
There's only so many people that understand the role that we play as Americans, and Americans are the government. We're not just controlled by the government, but you have to stand and be the government. And this guy seems to be doing that.
This guy, he definitely made the rounds. But like I said, that is pretty interesting what we have going on here. Of course, the states that stand with Texas, God bless these guys. They're doing a great job here. Dow futures are up about 100 points. Asian markets are up. Commodities are up. Natural gas is up. Stuff is up. Let me see here. My favorite Bitcoin wisdom
There was all that red Monday and Tuesday, so things are kind
Right.
of rebounding.
Things were red. They were so red. They were so red. That's not it. Here we go. Oh yeah, there we go. There we go. One of my favorites here, of course, ICP. Let's look at ICP. Oh yeah, there we go. There we go. Little chop. If you're trading, you're definitely gonna want to use your stop losses. Sir Matthew the Great, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, looking forward to today. I hope you don't mind a little bit of Fed bashing, do you, or not?
Oh no, bash away.
Okay. Well, let me just share my screen because I've been doing a little bit of research on how good the Fed really are.
Oh, they're just great, these guys.
I think you'll probably need to share yourself, won't you, to be able to see what I'm doing?
You want me to add you on here? Boom.
Please, yeah. If you can, once you can share my screen,
there you go.
Fed
interest rate decision. It's up here.
Oh, yeah. So we've got an interest rate decision coming next week, and there's a 94% chance they're going to keep it on hold. So that means that the Fed, they may see things that we don't see. They may see that inflation is going to come right back under control because it looks as though they're going to be reducing interest rates reasonably soon. So they've been on hold since last July was the last rise in rates. Been on hold ever since then. So for the past 6 months or so. So this is the Fed, what they call their dot plot, and it's the actual outlook. Even individual ones who vote, they give their outlook on this dot plot for the future expectation for interest rates. So you can see that they're expecting, these are actually looking for years ahead, but even 2024, you can see their expectations for lower interest rates. There's nothing higher. So it looks as though rates have peaked. As I say, last July was the last raise in rates. And you can see the various ones where they voted on their dot plot for the expectation for future interest rates. So they're expecting them to continue to come down. But what's interesting is how good are the Fed at predicting interest rates? So this is quite interesting, showing the deviation between actual interest rates and their projections. And there's a massive deviation there. I've actually got another chart. I don't want to spend too much time on each one, that actually shows it even better. This is actually showing their projections. And what we can see here is, this is the correlation coefficient. And you can see over time, the longer out they project, the worse they are at predicting it. Now, they're very accurate at predicting maybe 3 meetings ahead. And you'd expect that because I think they know, they've already decided pretty much in advance, 3 meetings ahead, what rates are going to be. So you'd expect them to be entirely accurate. So the correlation there is 1. But as time goes on, they get worse and worse and worse. And so basically, after sort of 30 months from the forecast date, they have got literally no idea where rates are going to be. You could just as well ask your next door's cat or dog what the rates are going to be. You'd be just as accurate as the Fed. They've got literally no idea. And these people are running our economy, or your economy, the world's economy, I guess.
The world's economy. Yeah.
It's everyone's economy. Yeah, so it's shocking. And obviously the Fed aren't alone, all the central banks, who manipulate the interest rates, but the Fed do lead the world. So, America leads the world with the economy. So this is very worrying. I really think it's quite worrying that they've genuinely got no idea when you look at this, zero correlation with the actual rate after 30 months. So it's only the ones they can actually have already decided, basically, the first 3. Beyond that, the correlation just goes down and down and down. So they've got little idea where things are going. So you would wonder, why is it that we even listen to the Fed? Well, the fact of the matter is they still decide interest rates, even though they've got no idea what they're going to be in the future, apart from 3 months. Apart from the 3 months they've already decided, or 3, beyond that, they've got no idea. But they still set interest rates, and the market is very, very reactive to interest rates because it does determine how and where capital is allocated. So, and what's really interesting is we can see again how Fed get it wrong so often, that whenever rates peak, this is usually just before a recession hits. So we can see all these gray bars. These are recessions along the way. And usually just after we see a peak in rates, we see recession hit. So when they should have had rates lower because they should be able to see a recession coming, even now the signs are out there saying recession's coming. And every one of these occasions where we've had a recession, the Fed should be able to see, and yet they still raise rates right up until recession hits and the economy starts shrinking. And then you get this swinging, cyclical thing, but up and down with the economy. There's no continuity, which ideally businesses want continuity. That's where businesses thrive. But the Fed isn't giving any continuity here. They're raising rates way too late, and then they're lowering them way too early because they've actually got no idea what they're doing, unfortunately. This is shocking to say. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they do know exactly what they're doing. And maybe swinging asset prices around is actually in their interest. So maybe that's another possibility, and probably the most likely, because I don't believe they can be this clueless about the economy, really. So I guess they probably do know what they're doing. So I take that back.
Yeah.
So it makes a big difference to us. I mean, we know that interest rates affect the value of the US dollar. That's this top chart. And we also know that Bitcoin is pretty much inversely correlated, not just Bitcoin, but most risk assets. So we can see that they move pretty much in the opposite direction, not precisely, but for example, we can see here where we had the rise in dollar index, we've had the fall in Bitcoin. That's since we had that ETF, but it's interesting that the ETF approval, but it's interesting that the US dollar rose at the same time, that inverse correlation, it's been perfect. This gives me some reasonable hope. I think short term, we could get, we're undergoing we've had a bit of a pullback here on Bitcoin, but according to this, we've had wave one up, wave two down. So potentially we're getting close towards some upside for Bitcoin, which would potentially mean downside for dollar index. Now, we're not the Fed, so we're going to try and tell you the truth about where the dollar index is going. So one of the things that's quite closely correlated as well, or inversely correlated with Bitcoin, is the price of oil. And you mentioned that earlier today. So we'll take another look at oil and see where that's likely to go. But here's the kind of inverse correlation. This is actually looking at the Sharpe ratio. So it's risk-adjusted return. It's one of the most commonly used measures in fund management to compare the return of assets on risk-adjusted basis. So you can see again, they're moving pretty well in the opposite direction. So when oil goes up, Bitcoin, tends to move in the opposite direction, but not precisely. So you can't move it, you can't be precise, but in general. And here's another one looking at the price of Bitcoin and the price of oil. You can see where Bitcoin fell here. We've had oil price rising. So you can see, again, pretty well, a good inverse correlation there. That's interesting to see. So here's oil itself. I had another look at this chart just to try and see where we're potentially at. And I do think as an analyst or a technician, it's good to be aware that you may, just to be flexible and adaptable with your approach. So I've looked at it again here, and potentially we seem to have A up, B down, and C up. And actually, I measured this wave here to the top of this one, I transposed it to the bottom of this one, and it gives us almost the top of the oil price there. So there's a real potential, and that's why I've got a C wave with the question marks, a strong potential that we're going to turn to the downside here. If there's an ABC, if it is an ABC, then we should drop to new lows on oil. So what could drive that? Now, you talked about the things going on in the Middle East. There's actually serious talks now between Israel and Gaza about a truce for the next couple of months at least. So if that happens, we could see a cessation of hostilities there. We don't know quite what's happening in Russia, but maybe we see a cessation of hostilities in the near future, which will probably put less upward pressure on oil prices. And also, we are seeing the economy slowing. So it's going to be really interesting to listen to the commentary at the next FOMC meeting next week when they set interest rates. What are their expectations for the future? And if inflation is expected to come down, and if growth is expected to subside, then that would bring the oil price down. And that would actually fit very nicely with our narrative that Bitcoin price could be headed higher. Here's another one looking at an oil index. And again, you can see the same sort of picture. This is an independent one, not my chart. Look at an A down, B up, and expecting C down to lower prices on oil products. So that's quite interesting. And then just finally, there's a couple of charts. I'm just going to talk about, how cryptocurrency is becoming so much more mainstream. So this is actually looking at the volatility, and it's actually showing that Ethereum is now far less volatile than the NASDAQ index. So that's beginning to show some real maturity of cryptocurrency assets, which I think is really interesting. And then we can look at this, it's Blockware Solutions. So clearly they do have an axe to grind, but they're looking at cryptocurrency adoption. And this yellow line is looking at the halving events. And it said we're here, obviously moved on a little bit. We're actually just about at the halving in 2024 now. So probably just about somewhere here where we get the next halving. But this is the adoption rate, and it's looking at the percentage of population using Bitcoin. And this is obviously the supply. And you can see that adoption potentially exploding to the upside. And this is all part of the narrative, again, of ETF approval. And that will probably broaden out into next one will be not just Bitcoin, but probably Ethereum and probably others to follow. So the world population using Bitcoin, you can see here, is set to absolutely explode. And, that may have an impact on price. I would expect it will have an impact on price because fiat, limited supply, of course. So that's my little Fed bashing effort for today.
I mean, our federal everything right now. I mean, I know it's the same across the world. Definitely the West. I mean, gosh, you look at even our border and everything else, and now we have, we have what 4 or 5 different states that are coming together, and this is, it's like the war over in Israel. Everybody thinks, oh, we're going to go in and it's going to take us a little bit of time. We're just going to knock out all these bad guys in Gaza, and here we are a few months later. There's tens of thousands of people dead. We have bombs flying. We're now bombing Somalia, Yemen, Lebanon, Iraq, Iran. I mean, it's like Pakistan, So these are dicey situations, and that it's just we have it's an out of control. It's not working correctly.
What's shocking is the cost of all this bureaucracy. Let me say it right, bureaucracy. So the cost of it all. I mean, can you imagine the cost of the Fed and the FOMC and running all that and predicting, all these guys working on predicting where we're going with the economy, interest rates, and yet we can see, honestly, anybody you pick on the street could do a better job. They're not doing a good job. They're genuinely not. There's no correlation between where things actually go and where they're predicting it will go. So they really are. So as I say, maybe they're not useless. Maybe they're extremely accurate. They know exactly what's happening, but maybe it's a sort of a tactic to distract you, a distraction technique to take you away from what's really happening. That could well be the case.
Well, I definitely think that they do that quite a bit. Whenever there's a lot going on here, I always like, okay, what else is going on in the world, or vice versa. If everyone's talking about something else going on, I'm like, all right, in the world, like what's going on here? And certainly, media and everything is quite coordinated. But and then of course, a lot of people don't think that the Fed trades and stuff like that, but they do. I mean, there are central banks trade. That's part of their business.
Effectively, they do when they're playing with liquidity.
They're the market makers.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and again, apart from that, that's obviously legal, but we don't know. There's an awful lot of illegal insider trading that goes on. I'm generally not pointing the finger at anybody, but we know it happens. People get caught out on occasion. Friends of friends of friends buying assets when they know something's going to happen. We see that, and it's basically when you see a front-running just before a particular event. It's usually some leakage of information. But I don't think that's a major issue. I think, as I say, they probably are very much in control of where things are going, but the information they put out isn't putting out the information that actually empowers and informs people. And that's why we're doing this show, I guess, to give people the real information, to show people what's happening with the prices of different assets and the interaction between them, to hopefully empower listeners to make better decisions.
That's exactly right. I just shared my screen here. This is Capital Trades, and this tracks what they're trading, what Nancy Pelosi is trading, what the other senators and the people in the House are trading. So I think that, as well as Eve. I pulled up Eve the other day, and you got to hook me up with an executive account, I guess, because I was taking out. Let me just.
We'll do that, Bruce. We'll actually give you a Premier account to take a look at some of the things that we're doing. So cool. It's only cheap anyway, but
yeah, I know.
You've only got to sell a little bit of Litecoin to pay for it.
Sell a little Litecoin, but not any of my ICP. I think ICP is going to double real quick. I think ICP will double before Litecoin.
Yeah, I mean, as you know, one of my favorites is Solana, which when things are going up, Solana goes up more. So I love Solana for that when things are going up, but unfortunately, when they're going down, it goes down more as well. So you've got to be on the right side of the market. But this is actually showing quite a rosy day for crypto. Looking forward.
It is, and this is the Eve.io. Everybody should check it out. Here you see Solana up 1.86, down 10% on the 7-day, but that's probably a decent area to enter.
Yeah, and what we're actually doing, Bruce, in probably only about a week's time, we're going to give people access to a portfolio simulation tool. You'll be able to just input all your own cryptos and actually just see what they'd have done over a certain period of time. And then you can look at what the Eve efficient portfolio would have done. You can just compare them side by side and just see how powerful this technology is. And it's the very latest AI and machine learning technology and adaptive computing. You know, our dev team and research teams are second to none, and the stuff that they're bringing out really will empower investors to make better decisions.
So I get to tell you guys that what I did, I made a bunch of money, six figures trading this. When things changed from one rating to the next, I watched that and I did pretty well. So anyway, well, cool. I'm excited to talk more about that. That's pretty cool. Of course, guys, make sure as well that you check out the Capital. It's called capitaltrades.com, and you can see what these guys are trading. I think that can you shed a little bit of light as well on what's going on with the farmers over in Europe? I mean, what is going on? It's like I thought it was just Germany, but now it's Lithuania.
Yeah.
Now it's like some other ones. They got manure everywhere. I mean, that's what they should do here in DC. They should just bring manure, and that's what they should do. I like the tactic, but what are
the problem with farming, and part of the problem that I think the UK had with farming across Europe, it's so heavily subsidized. So they're actually subsidizing farms which are not productive at all. So even in the UK, I know of farms personally that actually produce nothing, but get paid a massive amount of money to produce nothing. And so this obviously isn't efficient. It's not productive. And they're trying to cut money here and there. Farmers aren't happy. Obviously, they prefer to be paid for nothing. But there's a lot of unrest because it's not sustainable. And I think it's a ridiculous policy to pay people a lot of money to do absolutely nothing. And I'm not just saying this. I know for a fact, because I know farms in the UK which are literally paid not to produce milk, not to produce crops, not to produce meat, not just generally not to produce. They get paid for not producing. So
we have these same type of things. Yeah, we have the same type of things in the U.S. People, they get paid. I remember, even as it's been going on a long time, I'm sure our viewers in Texas as well would know a lot about it. I grew up in North Carolina for quite a bit. Dad retired Fort Bragg. But they were paying people just to not farm the land at all. Just leave the land empty and get the subsidy from the government. And they were making more money and not having to work.
Yeah, I mean, subsidies are one thing to try to encourage farming, maybe, possibly, but actually things should probably be the real price of production rather than subsidized, I guess. And it'd be better to actually tackle it in a different way to give people the money and the job opportunities, etc., they need to pay for the goods. Subsidizing, again, is just more bureaucracy, that word that I hate.
Yeah.
But it's
Well,
just
and that's like when we talk about Trump. I think Trump's going to win, right? I mean, unless something crazy happens, I think he'll win, and I think overall, obviously, it's going to be better. But he really needs to fire like 90+% of the administrative state.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, they can't do it, and they probably won't do it, as you said. But that is what's needed, because again, like the farmers, they don't produce anything; they don't do much useful at all.
It's a great analogy. Exactly. They're subsidized. We have subsidized administration state. We have subsidies.
Subsidies should be done away, and everything would work so much better, because you need to work for your money then, and people will get paid for a good day's work. The point is, if people are paid for doing nothing, there's no incentive to do proper work, is there?
Well, exactly right. Exactly correct. I want to give a shout out as well to Smart Money Culture TV. You can always watch this, guys, on smartmoneyculture.tv. My man Fly Mackey, shout out to him as well. Our producer, building something really special there. And we're going to be on more and more TVs across the U.S. I told him we want to start hitting Asia, too. I hear Matt's a big star over there, too.
Fantastic. Yeah, we're building audiences everywhere. We're actually building collaborations with people all around the world, with communities around the world. And that's how we got together. I mean, it's fantastic that I know you've got a great community, and we're sharing, hopefully, in the content together.
It is a lot of fun. We enjoy it every morning, and really, really appreciate you. It's such great insight. I learn every morning, so that's a lot of fun too. So thanks so much for coming on every morning and doing it with us.
It's a pleasure. I look forward to tomorrow, and we'll have something new and something fresh, and hopefully something informative.
Amazing. Cheers.
Thanks, guys. Catch you soon.
Make sure to follow Matt Dixon, the big guy, Matt Dixon at MD Trade on X. Pretty excited as well about that Evade platform. I heard in a 200x long on Bitcoin this morning, David.
Oh, great. So you'll be sad in about an hour.
No, I think I'm going to be happy, bro. You see it bouncing nicely, huh?
Okay, 2 hours. 2 hours.
Maybe I should just close the position.
Well, if you're using a VE platform, it maybe you have a better read on it.
It was A plus. Did you see it?
Was it really? I didn't see it.
I know. We're always mixing our stuff as well in the background. Yeah, I tell you, so I want to talk a little bit more about what we have going on in Texas. And I want to talk a bit more about what we have going on because, we are so close to shots being fired. And I mean, I feel like nobody wants to see that. I don't think anybody wants to see that. I don't think the left wants to see that. I don't think the right wants to see that. I don't think anybody wants to see that.
No. So you have to continue the peace talks, and you can't do it that way. You have to do it with their game, with the pen, and you have to be able to verbalize the demands without firing any shots.
Yeah, I mean it's so there was now the thing is you never know, all right, because now you have AI. But
it is not that difficult, but we do need everybody to stand up and participate in what these demands are.
Well, that's absolutely correct, right? And so you have a situation, Martin Luther King showed us that, guys. And, you say what you want about the guy, but he did it peacefully.
Yeah.
And the way that you force change in a country like ours, across the West, really, I think all countries, is that you you join hands, and you stand strong. And if we all need to join hands and go down to the border and stop this madness, then that's what we do.
And let's have a good Texas barbecue while we're there.
And we'll have a pig picking.
The blood of liberty, or excuse me, the tree of liberty is watered with the blood of patriots. Well, guess what, man? I didn't see a whole lot of patriots that are out there walking around making sure that we have these weapons. Well, and if you really want to worry about the government, you need an F-16. And
so this is the second time. So this is a recording, and like I said, you have it's an interesting situation because, of course, you have Joe Biden says we need to do I don't know. So it's like a hot mic moment, and you have AI and everything else. I guess I won't pull it up, but you have AI and everything else, so you can't really know if it's true or not. But he apparently, from what I heard, I didn't post it or anything. He said, if we need to send some fighter jets down there, then that's what we'll do if these guys want to, mess around. But we have this volatile situation. Yes, we have this volatile situation that everybody is just kind of shrugging about. So, as I mentioned, let me pull that right up. So we have North Dakota, Virginia, Florida, and Oklahoma are standing with Texas. And so they're going to keep the border closed. And then you have the federal government, who I guess with some amendment, not the 14th, but one of them, the 15th maybe, or the 14th, whatever one of those amendments. The federal government is supposed to protect the border, and so they're saying this is our gig, but they're not protecting the border. So if they're not protecting the border, then of course the states jump in. I mean, this is crazy, man. I know we talk about it every day, right? And I know our, but you got to have a border.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to have a border, and you have to look into who's coming. I mean, these aren't just South American people fleeing from cartel areas. These are people from all over the world that know that there's a route that they can take.
Well, that's exactly correct. And we talked about that yesterday. Of course, guys, if we're at war right now, we're bombing. We just bombed. No one even talked about it. We're bombing Somalia now. I mean, we love to bomb these third world countries. I don't think we should be so proud of it. We're bombing Somalia. We did that a couple days ago. Didn't even really hit the news.
Well, that's the thing. We shouldn't be proud. And you say we, and it's really not.
I shouldn't say we. You're right.
It's really not your American. It's the corporation of these people that are doing it. These bureaucrat type people.
It's the administration state, the bureaucrats that have infested our government, that have infested Washington, D.C. They filled in the swamp over there, and they built this, it's almost autonomous, I think, right? The District of Columbia. It's not even a state. There's all kinds of other stuff that goes along with that. The capital used to be right here where I am. Old Town, Alexandria. Old Town, they call it. That's where the capital was. Yeah. And then at a certain point, they took it across the river, filled in the swamp, but they didn't fill it in enough. You got these swamp creatures everywhere. Yeah, it's a mess. So these guys, we're going to see now. Congress is that now that they realize that Donald Trump is going to be the nominee, and they're going to come to terms with that, till they're crying on their wives' shoulders or whatever they do, and now they're going to start. Now they're going to start beating the drums about fixing the border. But I'll tell you what, guys, it's January 25th. The election is not far away at all. We're still on these magic machines, these magic electronic machines. I mean, we're tech guys, David and I, we've been in the crypto space for a long time, the cryptography, all this stuff. I mean, Not, let alone state actors. Okay, state actors can definitely get a hold of those machines and do what they want with them. State level stuff, okay? Country level stuff. But I'm just talking about hackers. I'm just talking about guys that are smarter than you, understand how stuff works, can get on those things and do it. I mean, it's just common sense.
Yeah, the magic voting machines. They've been used in these communist countries for quite tons of elections, and now we're using them here in the U.S. It's obvious.
It's
that
so
there's gonna be a
obvious.
problem.
I know. I have a good clip for this. Hold on here. This was back like 20 years ago. Magic electronic. It's one of my favorite things to say. Look at this. Okay, all right, I got it right here. Here, I found it. Okay, let me share my screen. This is crazy. This was like over 20 years ago. This is the guy, and he says, I hacked him. Well, listen to him. I won't talk for him. 2006. Being sworn in. Computer programmer testifies he coded computers to rig elections.
Mr. Curtis, would you please state your full name for the record?
My name is Clinton Eugene Curtis,
And where do you reside?
Tallahassee, Florida.
And what is your profession?
I'm a computer programmer.
Would you please speak into the microphone so the audience can hear your testimony?
I'm a computer programmer.
Mr. Curtis, are there programs that can be used to secretly fix elections?
Yes,
How do you know that to be the case?
because in October of 2000, I wrote a prototype for President Congressman Tom Feeney at the company I work for in Oviedo, Florida, that did just that.
And when you say did just that, it would rig an election?
It would flip the vote 51-49 to whoever you wanted it to go to and whichever race you wanted to win.
And would that program that you designed be something that elections officials that might be on county boards of elections could detect?
They'd never see it.
Mr. Would you answer that question once again?
They would never see it.
So how would such a program, a secret program that fixes the election, how could it be detected?
You would have to view it either in the source code, or you'd have to have a receipt and then count the hard paper against the actual vote total. Other than that, you won't see it.
All right, Mr. Curtis, if you had been asked, you or others with your professional expertise had been asked to design a protective program that would protect the Ohio elections from against such software to fix the election, could you have done so?
If we've been asked to make a program that can fix the election, sure, anybody can do it.
No, could you have designed a program or a procedure or a protocol that would have protected Ohio against this kind of rigging?
No, you have to look at the source code. You have to get probably programmers from both or all parties to look at the source code and determine if there's anything in there that shouldn't be there. I mean, it's a simple program. You're adding 1 to a person's total. It's 100 lines of code tops.
All right, are you aware of whether there was any protective action in Ohio against this kind of vote rigging through software?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know.
You were not asked to assist in the development of any protective system, is that correct?
No, I was not.
In Europe, have you reviewed at all the election results in Ohio?
No, I haven't.
Okay. Given the availability of such vote rigging software and the testimony that has been given under oath of substantial statistical anomalies and gross differences between exit polling data and the actual tabulated results, do you have an opinion whether or not the Ohio election, presidential election, was hacked?
Yes, I would say it was. I mean, if you have exit polling data that is significantly off from the vote, then it's probably hacked.
And your testimony is under oath?
Yes, sir.
And the testimony you've given is true?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Congresswoman Stephanie Castell. Councilwoman Waters and I have the same question. Back to the podium. Who did you say you were asked to prepare?
I was asked by Tom Feeney. He's now a congressman. At that time, he was Speaker of the House of Florida, Yang Enterprises, which was the company I work for, lobbyist, and their corporate attorney. Wore a lot of hats.
And at the time, he was the Speaker of the House of Florida. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Congressman.
He's saying he was the lobbyist for the voting machine company at the same time he was Speaker of the House?
I don't know what the voting machine company is. He was a lobbyist for Yang Enterprises. We had NASA contracts
And Yang Enterprises did what? Computers?
computers.
Okay, and he was your lobbyist, your
He was
company's
the
lobbyist.
lobbyist for that company, yes.
And he asked you to design a code to rig an election
Yes,
while he was Speaker of the Florida House.
yes,
This was during or previous to the 2000 election?
yes, October into September.
And did he ever express why he wanted a code to rig an election?
No, I immediately assumed that they were trying to keep you guys from cheating them. So, so I wrote up the documentation of what you would look for in the source code, how you would make sure that you didn't get, taken advantage of, make sure that all voting machines had receipts, because that way you could back count the ones that were a little funny. And I handed it.
By receipts, you mean a paper trail?
Yes, paper trail. And I handed that in to Mrs. Yang and said, here's your report, here's your program. And she said, you don't understand, we need to hide the fraud in the source code.
Hide the fraud, not reveal it.
Not reveal the fraud, because it's needed to control the vote in South Florida, was what she said.
That's what she said.
That's
To your knowledge, was this used?
I have no idea. I was ready to leave, so I retired and left the company.
Your testimony a moment ago, I think you said just before you left, and answered the Congresswoman Tubby Jones' question. Would you just repeat what you said in terms of the exit polls?
Oh, the exit polls should not be significantly different than the vote.
And if they were, you would conclude what?
I would conclude someone's playing with the vote.
Not with the exit polls?
That's possible too.
Okay, I was gonna ask why
Something is definitely skewed.
something is skewed in one or the other about.
Right. To select which one, you'd have to see where the problem is.
Let me ask you one further question. Assuming for the moment that such software, that's what you call it, such software to rig a vote was used in one or more machines in Ohio or in Florida, could you today detect that if you looked at the source code?
If you could get the machines and they have not been patched yet, I mean, once they get in and touch them, anything can happen. You can also set timers to that, but then you see the timers. Then you'd have to take those machines, decompile them, which I couldn't do, but possibly a Microsoft, an MIT, something to do. You might be able to see it.
You might.
Not necessarily. Depends on how good they are at destroying what they had.
Depends on how good they are at destroying what they have. It's pretty obvious that these things were used pretty intense.
I mean, of course they are. It's just like the mail-in ballots. I played the video of Vladimir Putin yesterday. You got guys. You can't get anything. You can't get anything from the Postal Service. Like, you can't get your driver's license from the Postal Service. You can't get any document. You know what I mean? Like, you can't verify who you are. Like, it's the Postal Service. I remember when I got married, I sent out a bunch of different invites, of course, for the wedding. And Antoinette calls up Mom, and she says, "Hey, am I invited to the wedding?" And Mom's like, "Well, of course you are. What are you talking about?" She goes, "Well, I never got an invitation." And it turns out that it was like a high percentage. Like, it was like 5 or 10% of the people didn't get their invitation.
Wow.
I mean, we're not talking. Yeah, we're not talking about something. And then, of course, they can just load them in there. So
There's two postal services as well. There's the postal service, and then there's the post office where you can send registered mail. Registered mail is it's locked up and it's hand delivered and signed for, and it's a better service. And we're not even using that.
We're not even using that. You don't even have to sign it. You don't even have to go to the post office and sign it. It's a very good point. And then the magic machines, guys, we just played the video. Maybe I'll play it again, but you saw, I mean, that thing got like thousands of retweets, over 1,000 reposts. But it's a video from 2006. Like it's been around forever. I just uploaded it because I wanted everyone to talk about it again. But there is no way in any real world that anybody's thinking that you should think that these magic electronic machines are not compromised.
Right.
I'm in tech for 20 years, guys. Like it's like longer, maybe even like absolutely.
And
if
who
it's
knows
not,
where a mail-in ballot ends up? Sometimes people aren't home, and maybe a landlord or anybody could grab a ballot and send it in with a different vote.
so I think this time around, I don't know. I mean, if the general election, I mean,
this time around, you can even print your own.
You can print your own.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. And isn't it pretty well understood that like the whole Bernie versus Hillary back then was.
Oh yeah, they didn't want Bernie running. They didn't want crazy Bernie running. They didn't want anybody feeling the burn. Okay.
And how about no debate against Biden? He is installed.
Oh yeah. Well, and now, I mean, I've said for the longest time that he is playing his incompetence, that he's not really that incompetent. It's just kind of a show, and then they'll change him out at the last minute. I mean, who knows if that'll happen or not, but I would not be surprised if our California guy gets slipped in there. I mean, say what you want about Gavin Newsom. He's good looking. He talks well. He's perfectly capable of running. And I mean, they'll anoint anybody, apparently. We have these two in there. It's just crazy. But I'll tell you what, guys, if we are lucky enough to get through this election with what we have and have a decent result, it needs to be like the number one issue to fix these electronic voting machines and these mail-in ballots. We just can't do it. And I have to say that Mike Lindell is the guy. He's the only one trying to do it. Mike Lindell for the RNC chair. Let's see if we get Mike Lindell on the show. Anyway,
there you go.
I'll try. I'll try. We follow each other on X.
Thank you for all your updates today. Matt Dixon as well for the FAI stock analysis and crypto markets.
You got it, brother. We'll see you guys at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time, 11 a.m. in Texas and Louisiana on the Porter Brothers.
Your voice is powerful. When combined with social engagement, it's a force for change. Decentralized media paired with free speech is the catalyst for an empowered world and a unified, invaluable ecosystem. Join Global Boost, become a champion of free speech, and help to reshape the future of media.